Could you give me an insight into your kind of guiding principles as you set about adapting Burroughs' novel for the screen?
My guiding principle, honestly, was when I read the book, I was really surprised, having known Burroughs' work in other books and not having read Queer. I was really surprised to find that, for the most part, it was a very straightforward love story. And that was kind of shocking to me, coming from Burroughs, you know. And so I really let my guiding principle, my guiding light in adapting the book be the psychology of Lee and Allerton. Anything that wasn't about them, I always tried to bring the focus back to what was going on between the two of them and their very complicated love story, because that's what it is.
And how about when it came to the way the film is structured into those kind of 3 acts in the epilogue, or 3 chapters in an epilogue?
Yeah, well, so the book is, there's a section in our film, without spoiling anything, that takes off from the book in a big way, and that kind of goes a lot farther into an avenue that the book opens up and then closes. And that was a decision that Luca and I made after, you know, having many, many conversations about this, long before I even started writing, you know, because we were in the middle of making our movie Challengers, and we would just talk about this movie for a long time before I actually started really putting pen to paper. So knowing that we were going to go there, I was structuring the movie with that in mind.
So tell me a bit about your working relationship with Luca, particularly now that you have worked on 2 features together.
Yeah, well, Luca and I met he had read my script that I wrote on spec, you know, which when you write a script on spec, you don't know who's going to collaborate on it with you. You're just kind of writing it for yourself because it's a movie you want to see. And then that movie ended up coming together very quickly, and I think Luca and I spoke on the phone towards the end of 2021, and a week later I was on a plane to Milan to hang out with him and figure out if we could make this movie together. And really, from like the moment I landed and met him in person, I knew that this was one of my people. You know, I knew that we spoke the same language and that we were excited by the same kinds of thing in film. And so once you have that kind of general trust with somebody and with a collaborator, you're kind of good to go, you know. And so it's made further collaborations really easy and kind of just joyful. Yeah.
I love this speech where Daniel Craig's character Lee is talking about kind of his own internalized homophobia as he was discovering his sexuality, and then deciding to be unapologetically queer and unapologetic about his queerness, given the advice of his friend. And could you just talk a bit about crafting that speech in particular, and its what it tells us about the character, really? It's such a great scene and speech.
Well, I have to give almost all of the credit for that speech to William S. Burroughs, because it's directly lifted from the book. And, you know, obviously there was some structuring of that scene that I had to do to make it work as a scene in a film. But I tried as much as I could to use Burroughs' dialogue every time that I could, because I find that speech so incredibly moving and funny and cynical, but also sentimental, you know. And it's a thing I've talked about a bit with this movie, which is that I was so shocked when I read the book to find that the character was so tender, you know, and that the character was so embarrassing, and so he sometimes didn't know when to stop talking. And that was a Burroughs I hadn't seen before, you know. So I wanted to make sure that made it into the movie.
And I love the way the film conveys queer desire. Would you like to say something about including that in the screenplay?
Well, it's interesting in that the book is very coy when it comes to certainly anytime the characters are making love, it doesn't describe that very much. And Luca and I made a decision very early on that we wanted to not be coy. We wanted to actually go there and make it something that was revealing of character always, you know. So that was really my guiding principle with that.